to today's IIM Chat. This is the first IIM Chat for the year, brought to you by the IIM Alumni Association Singapore. Our topic for today is career planning and you, a view from the other side. It's a topic that is relevant to a very wide section of our alumni community. So whether you're just starting out in your career or navigating mid-career challenges, or trying a career pivot to do something new, you will definitely find something of interest over here. Our moderator for today is Krishan Sharma. Krishan is uniquely qualified to conduct this discussion. He completed his doctoral program from IIMA in 1998. He's worked in a number of corporate HR roles across Hong Kong, Shanghai, Oslo, and now Singapore. He's done adjunct teaching at SMU, and he currently works in the executive search and HR consulting space. We also have a distinguished panel. I'm going to leave it to Krishan to introduce everyone and take the discussion forward. Krishan, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Deepika, for organizing this and also giving us this opportunity to go. I already see one Q&A question, so I will follow on that. But before I take on, maybe I will ask one by one each of you to introduce yourself. So Bosa, I would like to start with you. If you can give a very quick introduction about yourself, and then I will follow to David. Yeah.
Okay, so nice to meet all of you. Thanks a lot for the invitation. So I'm Vincent Maillard. So I'm French, as my name may sound, and my accent. So I've been working in the HR business for more than 20 years, especially in talent acquisition. I started actually as a military, my career as a military in France, and then I joined a consulting firm, international consulting firm, and I led the Singapore office during 5 years. So I've been living in Asia for 5 years, and then I acquired a Californian startup in HR tech, and we built a business. So that was 5 years ago. That is an international business in Singapore, California, and France to, again, talent acquisition, but with a big focus on technology. That's about it.
Thank you very much, Bosa. Really appreciate it. David, maybe you can give a quick introduction.
Yes, I'm David Miller, presently based in Beijing. Originally, I was in Singapore. I'm actually British, so I started off my career as a lawyer with one of the UK top 5 law firm. Left that and went into talent acquisition and headhunting. And so far, I think almost about 25 years experience in headhunting and executive search. Set up 2 firms in Singapore. Now we established out into China. So we have an operation in Shanghai as well as in Beijing. Now we are doing okay, and the reason why I was very excited to be invited to this Zoom seminar was simply because I think it's something that I would have appreciated many years ago in my career, to have some experts given their input to career progression. That's my side. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Tanya, maybe you can introduce yourself.
Sure. So I'm based in Bangkok. I'm half Thai and half Belgian, and work at Korn Ferry. So Korn Ferry is a 2 billion organizational consulting firm, and for Thailand and surrounding region, Indochina, so including Vietnam and a couple of countries, I managed the search side of the business. And before I came to Thailand, I spent 4 years in Singapore, also working in talent acquisition and executive search.
Thank you very much, Tanya. Subhash?
Thanks, Krishan.
Yes.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening. Myself, Subhash Nair. I am based out of Bangalore, India. So I have like 14 years of experience in headhunting, executive search, also doing talent management services for clients across Asia Pacific and Europe region. So out of these 14 years, 10 years I've spent in Singapore with leading executive search firms. And right now I am the country manager for Comaea Consulting. Comaea stands for Competency Made Easy. And we are a Swedish firm with offices in Sweden, Singapore, India. And we focus across marine, information technology, as well as industrial engineering sector. So very happy to be here because I have a passion for recruitment, and I feel it's a great opportunity also for me to share about my experience in the industry with you all. On the personal side, I like to play football. I like cooking. I like to trek. I'm married. I have a son who's 2 years old and keeps me on my toes outside.
Thank you very much, Subhash. Really appreciate it. Let's have a good time. And I think I'm really excited and delighted that you accepted to give this time, and also in past, for preparation of this. I will start with a little story. And that is when I started doing my PhD, my topic of PhD was occupational withdrawal. And my thesis advisory committee, and many of you would know, chairman was Raghuram, Professor Raghuram. He was the director of IIM Bangalore. He told me, Krishan, first you tell me what is the difference between profession, occupation, and career. Why you're not using career or profession? And that's when I really worked it's very difficult to define. But finally, I found the difference between profession and occupation and career is that career inherently, by definition, means changing jobs. Whereas profession, gives you a power against, like a lawyer, you have a certificate, you have power against your customers. Like a doctor, you have a lot of power. So you maintain the same thing. But in our careers as management, we are today in FMCG, tomorrow you could be in pharma, third day you could be doing a consulting work. So career is broadly the relevant topic for all of us. So I think that thing which we have to understand, career by definition means changing jobs and moving into different kinds of professions and occupations. Okay. With that, I think we have a very nice panel. Thank you very much for being here. Wonsa, I would like to start with you because you have done a lot of different things. Starting from army, as a French helicopter pilot to MBA, then consultant, and now as an entrepreneur. What has been your biggest lesson in managing career? And what advice would you give to the alumni today in managing their career?
Thank you, Krishan. No, I appreciate your distinction between career, profession, and regarding career. I thought very hard about this question, about what I could bring as a main memory. It's a bit difficult because career, when we talk about career, we talk also about career planning. And planning means to foresee the future and prepare the future. And you've seen how difficult it is in our times to predict the future. So already career is really a challenging to plan. And that's why I thought what remains actually, even though everything is changing around you, what remains is yourself. And I think what I learned is that to plan well your career or to develop yourself personally, you have to know yourself, you have to dig into yourself and learn about not only where you're good at, but also what your deep drive are. So why do you wake up in the morning? Why do you want to be successful? Are you working? What is really driving you? And what are your interpersonal skills so that you can build or try to select the opportunities according to your true yourself, which is a very, very difficult exercise, of course, because you learn by doing, you learn through your career. But if you're obsessed by learning and by learning about yourself and trying to build your self-awareness, I think that's what I learned for myself. I learned that it was really, I think I went to the army. That was also sometimes to fight against my parents, or then I went to do something else that was not really always for myself. And little by little, I understood that where I was successful, was when I was in line with my personality and my style. And about learning, it reminded me also of, actually, I didn't meet many alumni from your university, but I met one in Paris, actually, I remember, because I was working for a company called Infosys. I guess you guys know, and this guy was a very successful business manager in Paris, an Indian, and actually impressed me a lot because the first time I met him, first of all, he was speaking very well in French, and he told me a poem of a French writer right in front of me. I was thinking, it's incredible. I cannot do it myself. And he was really, and then when I met you, Krishan, and it was confirmed that the education and the learning is really core in your mindset. And I think you have already this, you may have this attitude, which is try to learn. It's just that I think learning about yourself is something that will help you in career management. Does it answer your question a bit?
Yeah, it answers my question, but it leaves a very, very important question, and some of the participants have already asked this question to me, I mean, how do you learn about yourself? I mean, there are not, I mean, you look at company's performance appraisal system, your boss tells you something which he wants you to focus on. And, it's a political game to some extent in certain kinds of organizations. So how do you deeply learn about yourself? If we take career as a transitory process where you have different steps, so what would be the best way? And I'm asking you particularly also this question because I know that you have been also an executive coach. So how do you discover that?
I mean, you said the word, which is, coaching, which is, I think you learn by, first of all, it's an attitude, it's a mindset. So I was insisting on the fact that you need to have this mindset, this willingness, this ambition to learn and to, then you learn through your failures, of course, you learn through your, by doing. But I think that at times you need to some specific periods of your life where you're really focusing on your on knowing yourself and a bit deeper. And there are many techniques for that. And I think it can be a bit spiritual. It can be a coaching. Of course, it has to be coming from you. But at time of crisis, when you're looking for a job, when you're in a situation where you're really struggling on knowing where you want to go, I think, for instance, coaching or analyzing who you are and stepping back a bit is, and there are many people who can support you for that. I mean, we can talk that in more details, but there is a huge industry about coaching, and it's very difficult actually to select what kind of advisor you should have. And I mean, I will be really very happy to discuss more about it. But for the most important is that you have this motivation to go deeper.
Also, I'll continue with you because there's one interesting question from one of the panelists, and the question is, I was laid off in my late 40s and it was tough landing on my feet. Luckily, I found something, but most of my colleagues struggled for months to find a job which could give me that some amount of dignity. Then I follow this, add a question, you find that job, but still it is not in your heart. This is not what you want to do. Should you take that job or you should not take that job?
Of course, you have external pressure. If you have a family, if you need absolutely, you take jobs sometimes that you don't have always all the choice in life. But it's true that the more you are prepared and the more you're, again, you know about your what is important for you, the easier you will not only select the right opportunities, but also you will have the drive and the energy to convince the targets that you're the person for the job. So I think knowing yourself is not only helping you select the right way, but it helps you be strong, and it helps you overcome these difficult times where you feel actually either that you failed and that nobody recognizes your merit, because of course it's a very competitive world around. So the more you're clear about what you're good at and what you want to do, then I think the more you can overcome that. So, and it's not easy sometimes alone to do that alone. So you have our placement services. You have also friends, maybe that can, but I think that it's a bit risky to just interact with a near circle of friends. It's because it's a job, huh? To coach. It's a job really to analyze a personality. So I think that can be very, very helpful in this period of time where you are in doubt. Yeah. But remember also, and we're talking about the stereotypes we may have about Indian culture in France. That's really, I'm speaking for myself. There is this idea that you guys, you tend to be quite confident, quite strong, quite competitive, etc. So I think that in period of very positive and winners, like you value this winning spirit. So I guess in period of difficulties, in challenges, when you lose your job, it may be a bit more difficult actually to overcome, because you were in this success path without sometimes understanding why you were successful. But actually, yeah, there is a gap, and then you need to self-reflect and think, okay, what I was doing, what was the vision I had about myself, about my career, and what was the meaning of all that. And if you're not clear about it, the recruiter can feel that there is some gaps, and it's a weakness in a way for your convincing, for your energy, actually.
Thank you very much, Vasu. I think it answers to a large extent this question, but I want to move to you, David. David, you have worked as a lawyer and also as a recruiter in London, and also long time in Singapore. What differences do you see between UK and Southeast Asia?
That's a good question. I think when I first arrived in Singapore many years back, I tended to see, I'll sort of look at different areas first. Firstly, you look at the banking sector and the finance. I also did a lot in the legal, as well as FMCG. So typical kind of clients were sort of Procter & Gamble, if they were not Procter & Gamble, Unilever. So first we need to differentiate the different industry sectors. I think in the UK, when we look at the levels, so from graduation upwards, we tend to find, or I tend to see a lot more stability with regards to careers, i.e. somebody graduates and they spend as much as they can, maybe 4 or 5 years with that organization. And then after that, they would move on and maybe spend another 5 years, 4 years. So there was this career planning going on a lot of the time in the UK in certain industries. But on arriving to Asia, in particular Singapore, I tend to find that the careers are not, I would say, not fully thought about, in the sense that you can look at a CV of somebody who has been in the industry for 15 years, and this person could have moved maybe 8 times, right? So maybe 1 year in the first role, 18 months in the next role, and then 2 years in the next one. And they are still, the candidates and the professionals are still getting pretty good jobs with really good organizations. And I found that strange, because in the UK, I mean, if you do that, a lot of organizations don't take you seriously, because they do need some kind of loyalty, and they also feel that staying in one organization longer, you've learned a lot more. So that was one of, I mean, I think that should answer the question. That's one of the differences I found when I got to Asia, just to jump. And this didn't make people bad candidates at all. The other thing also I found was that there was, because I mean, having obviously worked the Hong Kong market, Singapore market, China market, as well as Singapore, tend to find that also in certain industries, people are looking to move for financial reasons. So it could be, I'm suddenly going to make $10,000 a year more, and you're looking at moving. Some people are so bothered about, whether it's going to be another $2,000 a year and not a month to my salary package. So there's this emphasis on money, right? Mm-hmm. Always money in Asia, as opposed to looking at one, who is going to be my mentor, who's going to be my MD at that bank. Am I going to learn something from that guy? Is there going to be career progression? Maybe I don't get that extra 2,000 this year, but at least I'm making it up by working closely with XYZ or by working in this organization. In England, I mean, that is what people look at. People say, who is the MD that I'm going to be reporting to? Who is the CEO? What am I going to learn? What's the person's career background, as opposed to just money? So these were the two things that I would probably say I focused on in Asia, which was quite alien to me. Why it was always about sort of, am I going to get more money? And also the jump from roles. I think that was the main difference. I mean, on the positive side, I tended to find that in Asia, a lot of the professionals, a lot of the candidates, sometimes had actually thought, even though they're moving, they've actually thought from graduation where they want to be, hopefully, by the time they're 50, by the time they're 40, right? So that was something I thought was quite impressive. Somebody thinks about where I'm going to go after that. But I think on the whole, over time, it has changed. And I think a lot of professionals now in Asia, especially the Asians, Indians as well, are looking more again at the career and the organization as opposed to just the money.
Thank you very much, David. This, I think, it's quite interesting about that money part, and of course, I'll come back to that part a little bit later, But with these new changes, technology, now you're in Beijing, you were here for 18 years, What advice would you have for somebody who was looking for a job and in this, you can't travel, you can't move, you can't do many things, What kind of tips and tricks you would give to someone who is facing a job market?
I think first things is to not be so narrow with your search, right? And with technology nowadays, the world is open. I mean, you have so many mediums of trying to find the right kind of opportunities. So technology is certainly more advanced now. So it's not difficult to try and home into certain roles. I think one also needs to be open, especially in Asia, with regards to movement. I might be based in Bangalore, but do I have another good career role in a different city? More open to those. Yeah, you have family consideration, but people should be more open to that. I think also the next thing is obviously with COVID as well. A lot of organizations are moving towards interviewing, assessment online. Zoom interviews, for example, Skype interviews, even WhatsApp interviews. So we, being all our ages, we were not used to that. I don't remember after leaving law school being told that I have to interview with a partner online. I mean, it's, you dress up, you go to the guy's office, you sit down in the waiting room and you see the guy face to face. Now it's different. We do these things. What we're doing now, we do Zoom. So I think presentation is very important. We tend to forget about that. So we think that because we're 15 years experience, everything comes down to our success at P&G or our success at Accenture or whatever. It's not only that. Presentation is very important, more so now than ever. Because I could walk into an office with a nice suit and look very well, but on video and on Zoom, it's totally different. Background, it's like all our backgrounds at the moment. I mean, the backgrounds are professional backgrounds. If you look, we might be at home. But some people tend to forget that as well. If you're going to have a blurred at the back, then make sure it looks good, right? So technology is important, and I would say people need to really focus and practice now on doing Zoom interviews, Skype interviews, because I think that's the way it's going to go.
And what would be your advice? How do you present yourself, and what kind of things you should do in a Zoom interview?
I think presenting yourself, there are various many ways of doing it. One is obviously what you wear, depending on who you're going to be meeting on the Zoom, right? So appearance, believe it or not, I mean, some people say appearance shouldn't matter, but appearance still matters. Why does appearance matter? Appearance matters because you're going to be doing 24 hours Zoom once you join that company sometimes, right? So you don't want to look at somebody who, doesn't make an effort some of the time. So I think personal appearance is very important. I think how you articulate yourself, answering questions. If you're asked a question, prepare properly for it, and don't spin around with the question. Go direct, because also you're on a time limit with a lot of these things. You're not there to be talking on Zoom for 5 hours or 3 hours. So you need to summarize and make your points as efficiently and as quickly as you possibly can, right? So I would say those are the most important things when it comes to sort of technology and recruitment now.
Thank you very much, David, for this. I've got some interesting questions, but I will come to them later on because they are all anyway part of the discussion which we are going to have. But I'm eagerly waiting to talk to Tanya now and ask her, she has been interviewing some people from by the way, if I have not told you, we have 20 IIMs in India, and approximately 1,600 alumni from all those 20 places work in Singapore. So I'm going to ask Tanya, have you ever come across any of the candidates from IIM?
Yes, as you know, I'll give you 2 examples. I think one was I'll start with a senior executive that did his MBA at IIM, and then a second with about 25 years of experience, right? So I think late 40s, and the other one with about 5 years experience, so somewhere in between 25 to 30, so a high potential. So to be honest, I had never heard about IIM, if I can say it, rudely. But the client that I'm still working with is an Indian family-owned conglomerate, and they specifically asked for well-educated Indian nationals. Right. And so this came up in the list. And so even though I must say this candidate's experience wasn't an exact match, it was for, for a group CFO role. I think one of the things that did help was the education, right? So he did have an initial education, and the MBA was from IIM. So that definitely gave them a comfort to know how this candidate was going to be successful in the future. So that was an eye-opener for me, because I think we know about all the Ivy League, your Harvard, or even from UK, you have Cambridge, maybe a couple in France, but the Indian MBAs or schools don't really come up that often. So there's only about a top 15 schools probably that come up. But another one, so the other candidate, a bit more junior, is actually, because I knew about this more senior candidate, that I knew he had a good education. But I must say, and he did make it through the interviews, which we were looking for a high potential candidate to grow into, in the next 10 years, into a regional P&L leader. But I must say, in the resume, I had to point it out because, and that's maybe a point of attention for all of you guys, saying, it's not highlighted, right? So I may know about it by coincidence, but anyone else will not, right? Especially if you're not from India, or maybe in Singapore, because there are so many alumni, but any other country, probably not. So it's something that you could think about in terms of branding yourself better in the resume or through any other way, but it just said MBA from IIM. That's it, from this year to that year.
And also, I think we discussed that, and he had done a 2-year course, and was it MBA or PGP, which he should have actually put MBA, because he's an MBA, and not right. It's difficult to know whether you are PGP. Thank you very much, Tanya. I think I also want to ask you, now that you are on this topic, which talks about the IIMs, tell me a little bit about how can you make your resume stand out, or how can you make yourself a little bit more vibrant and visible to the hiring managers? What kind of tricks or advice would you give?
How do you make yourself visible? I think the first thing is, maybe if you take it a bit broader, is you need to be a one person, right? And David mentioned it a bit around how's your appearance on to all of these technical devices. But it's true, your appearance on a technical device should probably have some similarities without losing authenticity, but with your Facebook account, because I do look at it. I really do look at it. And especially as we, as headhunters, are not always able to meet you anymore, we check it even more. So I've had instances where, you know, I could see all of the drunk pictures of a person. I mean, I'm not saying that's not okay, but then hide them, right? Just be a little bit conscious about that, because we do look at it. So whether it's Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, or whatever real video you have, I think it's something that needs to be there and needs to be authentic. So, you know, whether you have a family or if that's something you want to show, that's fine, I think, right? That shows authenticity, that shows what's your value, what's important for you, but it's something to be aware of. So same with this IIM, I mean, you may put it on different channels, right? If you want to market it, or just put in your resume ranked as the top X within India, or with a link to it, right? We will look at it. And the other part is also that the authenticity part, I think, is really important, because within Korn Ferry, we always take informal references before even presenting you to a client. So you may not know that I will call someone that I know from your current company, which we stay confidential, but because we have a network, we'll still ask, oh, how about, you know, this person, or how about Christian? How was he then? And, you know, and this is a normal procedure. So your authenticity or your work style or who you are, and coming back a bit to Vincent about, you know, are you close to your values? It needs to come out over the different stages of your career and the different employers. And I think that's an important part. Yeah.
And I think what you also mentioned, you know, Tanya, earlier when we were discussing this, you know, that, I mean, if you have a gap, demonstrate it, show it, you know. There's no point saying something else in the interview and putting something else in the CV. If you have left the job, you must indicate that you have left the job. Because at the end, if the client discovers that, you know, it is going to be almost fatal for the job. That's what you, I think, mean by authenticity. And also there should be consistency in, you know, your CV, your LinkedIn profile, or whatever databases you are using. Thank you very much, Tanya, for being so honest and direct, you know, and of course, we have a little bit of work to do there, you know. I mean, even we might think that we are, you know, a great place, but, you know, who knows, Leuven is the top-notch his place in France, you know, or who knows that Tokyo Law College is so popular and all the CEOs, you know. I mean, it's very difficult for people to know, you know, what is most prestigious place in Germany, you know, other than, as you rightly said, you know, Harvard, Princeton, you know, those kind of things. Subhash, I'm going to come to you because you have a very different kind of experience, you know, from research to headhunting to, you know, all those things. I'm going to ask you a direct question for our alumni. How do I get in the top of the list of a headhunter? What do I need to do to be so visible that my CV is picked?
Sure. Thanks, Christian. So it's a good question. And maybe I would like to present, you know, what happens on the other side, you know, from a headhunter's perspective, right? So when we start with a search, so that also will give, you know, the potential, you know, candidate or the one who's looking for a job change to also be careful about certain areas, right? So, I mean, I've been lucky to get experience working with top, you know, European as well as American executive search firms. And moreover, the process is very similar, right? So typically what happens is, like, once we get a mandate, right, we start, you know, we do a thorough job analysis, and then we start the sourcing, you know, wherein we sit with the client, we try to map the market. So we try to understand who the competitors are of the clients. We also try to expand the pool a bit. So we also look, if it's a product company, we will also look at service company who also sell to the same end users. Then we'll also see who else can be put in the supply chain, right? So we do a complete thorough market mapping, and we validate, also the same with regards to the client's interest in those companies. Once we do that, then starts the next stage, which is, we do a talent mapping, or we build the talent pool for that particular role, for this particular client. And I think here is where it becomes interesting, because we start looking, on the available resources that we have, maybe a local database, or now the most popular one is LinkedIn, right? So very easy to search anyone across competitors with a lot of information available. So LinkedIn is the go-through source, where we try to find maybe 5 to 6 good candidates who might fit well with regards to what the client has shared. And then we also do a benchmarking with the client. So we will present these profiles. We'll just make a very quick summary about these people. Sometimes these candidates have not even been approached. So again, the LinkedIn profile matters a lot, right? So we do that, and then the client tells us, okay, let's proceed with the search, right? And then obviously the researcher or the consultant involved starts engaging with these potential candidates, and also with other people, who might fit in with regards to the requirement. So usually we do like maybe a video meeting now, because of this COVID era we have been through, or a phone interview, or sometimes also face to face. We try to understand the whole career history about this person, what kind of achievements he's had, what we could highlight it with regards to what the client is looking for. And then some companies, they build their own CV for the candidate. Some companies just put it on their headers and footer, and then they will just tweak a bit the resume. So this again is a very critical stage, and I'll come back to why later on. And then obviously the next step happens, where we start with the interview, and then maybe assessments, psychometrics, or 2-3 interviews with the stakeholders, right? So what I want to highlight here is, like, before you get even the chance to meet the client, there are a lot of steps which a candidate also has to be careful about, right? So one, obviously, if you are in this transition phase where you want to change your career, so keep your LinkedIn well updated. Because as I said, if I'm looking to benchmark for a very high level client, I am going to look into LinkedIn. So keep your LinkedIn profile updated, keep a good picture in your profile, keep a summary about what you have been doing, maybe some of your achievements, especially if you are a publicly listed companies, because I can always go to the company annual report and see what has been the revenue for the APAC market or for the Europe market, right? So if you're handling maybe APAC, there is no harm for you to even specify the numbers there, right? So I can calibrate much more easily what I am presenting to the client. And there is also a recent research done scientifically also on some LinkedIn profiles, where they try to understand if they can already figure out what the personality of the person would be, depending on how they portray their LinkedIn profile, right? So try to be a bit more structured there, well organized in what you put in. A good picture will be nice. A smiley picture also, based on this research, if you have a smiling picture, it also represents that you are someone who is open, and also agreeable in a way, welcoming to others. So one is on the LinkedIn side. Two, because also on this resume thing I highlighted, right? So most of the times I see candidates, they just will put in one resume for all the positions they want to apply for. So that's a big no. So I would always suggest go for a tailor-made resume, depending on the company you apply for. And again, I mean, you have the other headhunter or the researcher to also help you, because this person has a lot of information about what the client is wanting to achieve, from this particular role. What are the challenges they might face, and maybe you can also put across your experience there. Maybe because we did recently a search where this company was also into a lot of merger and acquisition, and we were looking particularly for candidates with this experience, right? So when I looked into the LinkedIn profile of this person, this was not mentioned, but when I spoke to him, he had worked in his previous job with such brilliant experience, which obviously helped the client also to take him on board at the later stage, right? So resume has to be tailor-made. Speak a lot with your researcher, try to understand what they are looking for, try to also understand if they will make their own format, so maybe you can also contribute there, if it has been finalized, you can have a look into it and then also add in your inputs, especially if it's a company that you really want to get into, right? Because it might be from a competitor side, and this is something you really want to have on your career history. So go for that extra mile, right, is what I would suggest. And third thing is, we do approach a lot of, candidates, right? So, I mean, from a headhunter's perspective, I've always felt that it's only when the candidates need a job, they are very open to entertain you, right? And then there are a lot of people who, openly decline even your, in mails, So I would say be a bit more welcoming, be a bit more open, try to build a relationship, especially with a headhunter who is working in your particular industry, right? And, try to understand what the role is. Maybe if you might not be interested, but you can always refer someone, who might be looking for a job, right? So that also will put you on the good books of the recruiter, so when maybe you are in trouble, he or she might, go out of her way, to help, this person, right? So that is what I would suggest. And then obviously we just spoke about, not lying and, those things which Tanya mentioned. And I mean, I would say the same, like, as the saying goes, you never lie to your lawyer. I would also say that you have to be honest with your recruiter, because we have seen, we always come up with the candidates sometimes always come with surprises. And when the process has been started and at the end, when this is known, it really, it doesn't help neither the candidate nor the headhunter and nor the, client. So it has to be a win-win-win situation for all.
Thank you very much, Subhash. Yeah, David, you want to say something?
No, I agree with everything he said. That's completely true. Because if we are aware of any issues on the onset, we're able to deal with it with our clients. I mean, that's part of what our role is, right? To advise the client. So it's not a bad thing, as Subhash said. Be honest. It doesn't matter what it is, so we can deal with it. Most headhunters that I know are not going to not shortlist you because you're being honest about something that maybe happened at work. At least we can deal with it because it will come out at some stage. I mean, Vincent, do you agree?
Yeah. I fully agree. I was just thinking about a very concrete advice, but that was relating to Subhash's idea of pictures. And I had very bad experience with Indian pictures. I mean, the candidate pictures in India. I think sometimes, even high level, either it's very old fashioned, super strict, or it's not nice. So I don't know, that's a very simple advice, but I would say either you go to a photographer or you do, but a professional in our world, which is so visual. And you mentioned that very well. So Zoom, the image is so important. Like it, or you may like it or you don't like it, never mind, it's like that. So it's a little investment you can do. And it's not a detail, not a detail.
Can I ask Christian a question?
Yes.
I mean, well, for all of us, I mean, the times we've looked on LinkedIn, I'm just quite curious in this, and the person has not put a picture, right? I'm talking from experience, because actually, if you look at mine, there's no picture. Does that put you off the candidate? Or do you think it's important to have a picture? Because that's one thing I'm interested to find out from you guys as well.
Yeah, so David, you have asked me this question, I'll answer this.
Yes, please.
It's better not to have a picture than have an ugly picture. So that's the answer for that, I think.
Okay.
So two things I would also like to add, and you may not believe it, but I've seen some recruiters. I lived in Norway for some time. We have recruited people only on their social media presence. Never interviewed the candidate, especially when it comes to hardcore technical roles. All we did, and you should do for your profile as well, which we call it Google test. Just Google your name and see what comes up. Because that, and I know that we have recruited highly technical people based on number of publications they have done, the kind of work they have done, what kind of presentations they have done, what kind of conferences they have participated, what membership, and then just CV, not even interviews, straight off. So that makes a difference. So please always do a Google test. I'm going to ask a very interesting and also a controversial question from one of the participants here, let me read it to you. And that's from Arvind Singh. Whose interest does a recruiter mainly look after? Employer or candidate? Whose interest does a recruiter or a headhunter or executive search consultant look after? Is it employer or the candidate?
I can go first.
I don't know. I got first. Well, they have to remember that the money, where the money comes from. The money comes from, for the headhunter, the money comes from the recruiter, the client. So of course, there is a priority which is given that, but we're working on the right match. So normally the interest of both are taken into account, but I would say that the interest of the client is maybe sometimes number one, interest of candidate, unfortunately, maybe number two. But on the longer run, if a headhunter is very serious and wants to maintain strong relationship with his client, it better bring up the good match. So candidates who will be happy and that are really progressing in their career. So if the match is not well done, if the interest of the candidate is not taken into account seriously, then there is a long-term issue. But on a short-term issue, interest of client first. I would say interest of the company first. I don't know what you guys think. I mean, maybe
I think on my side, it goes both ways, because there are some candidates who I would definitely say are probably, because they build this relationship, which Subhash was talking about, have built this relationship with me, they are my priority with regards to getting them what they want. I mean, there's situations where I have told candidates that a client's offer is not right. I have told candidates before that maybe this organization, because I know the person's lifestyle, I know the person's family, I have been known to tell a candidate, look, it is a good company, but long-term, it might not suit you, right? So in that instance, I would say, yeah, the candidate is my priority at that stage. But also, as Vincent said, yes, who is the paymaster? The paymaster is the client, right? So yes, you do pay attention a lot to the client, but again, it also is important, your relationship with the client also, right? So I would say it should be a win-win situation on both sides, right? The candidate is as important, because without a good candidate, then you don't have good clients, really. So
true.
Yeah.
True.
Excellent. Tanya, you have anything on that, or?
No, I agree. I think wait, how to put it? I think we work for the good of both, right? I think that's clear also. There has to be a match. But what we don't do at Korn Ferry is we don't support candidates in their search. So we work on the client side, saying that we are mandated by clients to fill in the roles. We don't work in a way that we're mandated by candidates to find them a job. So it's not about interest, but it's just about business model. And sometimes, yes, we get a lot of in-mails and we're not always able to reply to them because of time and because it's not a priority, because the priority is finding a candidate for the role, rather than helping candidates that, for example, are looking for a job and introducing them to our clients. That's not the way, that we work.
And you know, guys, I mean, Tanya, also, there is this expression at Headhunters, we want to close the position, we want to close the assignment. So there is, you have, as a candidate, you have to imagine the pressure that there is on the headhunter, which is really to close the deal. So I think you as a candidate have to remember that you have to make an extra effort, I think, to generate a strong relationship with a headhunter, so that it really takes care of you. Because of course, at the end of the day, I agree with David. It's very important that we place good candidates, and we will always promote candidates with whom we have relationships. But it's a little bit, it has to be an effort coming from the candidate. Unfortunately, in our business model, it has to. There is an extra effort to manage and generate relationship with headhunter.
I think this is a good time. Yeah, sorry.
And how to do it when you have to find your ways. But yeah,
I think I have a very nice thing to say here, and I have a follow-up question on this same topic on an email from one of the alumni, which I will read later. But just want to summarize this. I have a very close CEO friend who always sends me candidate. Oh, Krishan, this is a great candidate. I'm sending it to you. It doesn't help me. I don't need great candidates as a headhunter. I need great assignments, and that probably answers the questions. That whether it does. But coming back to a follow-up question, which I got it on the email, and I'm going to read it. So, whose interest do you follow? Hence, do the consultants, if you are following largely you are following the interest of the client, do the consultants have time for the candidates? And second part of that question is, as a candidate, where do I go to seek honest, impartial, private, and considered advice on my career choices, profile building, etc., etc.? How do I find that? Subhash, I asked you first. You didn't answer the last person. I asked you first. What advice do you get?
I think, again, as I mentioned before, I think it's about building that relationship, right? So even if at one point of your career you were not interested for a job, if someone approached you and has been nice and spend some time there with you in terms of also sharing how the opportunity would help you in your career advancement, maybe those are the headhunters maybe you can put in your contact list and try to interact on a regular basis. Right. At the same time, I would suggest, if you are looking for a job, maybe try to understand who is the top 5 to 10 headhunters in your particular industry, and maybe try to approach them, see how they respond. Right. So you can also test, right? So if the ones if they spend time in responding to you and giving you some time, so maybe those are the ones you should further invest your time to also look out for opportunities, is what I would say.
No, but I mean, Subhash, and to everyone in this panel, many times I get, or Krishan, do you know this headhunter in this company or that company? Of course, many times I don't know. Sometimes I know, and I try to connect them. But headhunters don't give time to the candidates. So what to do?
Headhunters will give you, sorry, Sean, but headhunters will give you time if you correspond to one of their mandates. If you're a candidate that potentially is very interesting for the mandate you have today, yeah, great, nice to have you, and I will take care of you. The problem in our business is it's a little bit short term sometimes. Unfortunately, I mean, that's why it's really so you if you go to headhunters like that without any preparation, only when you're in a need, you may be disappointed because the headhunter may not answer really, will not take very serious care of coaching you or helping you, and you may be disappointed. But if you have prepared, as Subhash was saying, the relationship, which is, for instance, you build already some business. When you were very active, you were giving some business to a headhunter, you build a business relationship with him. And then when you lose your job, you go back to him. Of course, there will be a relationship and he will be trying to take care of you and do the extra mile and try. But if you go like that to a headhunter that doesn't know you, maybe doesn't have any assignment for you, it will receive you, you will lose 1 hour, it's or maybe more, and then there can be mixed feelings about the relationship with headhunters. By the way, many people complain about headhunters because they don't care, they don't really coach me, they don't spend enough time with me, etc. But you have to remember the business model we're in, and you have to invest in the relationship, but not only when you are in this urgency situation. That's something you really have to prepare a long time before. And when you're in a good position, because when you're strong, you have the capacity to motivate the headhunter to build this relationship. And as I told you, I know a French guy who's expert with that. He has He's surrounded by a network of headhunters who love him, because during all his career, he gave business to these headhunters. And these headhunters then, by miracle, they become kind of coaches for him when he's looking for a job. And so it's a preparation, it's a strategic preparation of relationship building.
Very sure.
Tanya is nodding. Tanya has something to add.
No, I think that's really, spot on what Vincent is saying. So I agree with that.
Very good. I think the anecdote which I would like to use for all the audience here, those who are hearing or those who will read or listen to it later on, when you're climbing Mount Everest, you go on the base camp and you leave some food behind, and then you can go on to the next panel and the next panel. You keep on leaving something behind, so that when you're coming back on the journey back, you have something to eat on the way. So it's about that. It's any business relationship. How you build relationship. How do you give? It's all about, in China, you have this, guangxi. And in India, we have, many things like that, source, which we call. So you have to, it's a practical thing, but at the same time, I have to say that I've been in this business as a headhunter or a recruiter for last 14 years. And before that, as a corporate HR guy. I can tell you, when I was in corporate HR, I built relationship. I remember with one particular headhunter, his office was in Hong Kong Q88, and they had the best wine cellar. I would every quarter go and have a drink with him on our company account or whatever, my account, and build that relationship, because when I needed him, he would give me the best possible advice on my CV and this and that. I remember once I was rejected for a job. After 6 months, when the person who was hired was left, I was again called for the interview by some miracle. So you have to, of course, do those things. I'm going to ask some other questions which have come on my email, but there's a little bit of a nice question which has come. What more can recruiters do to promote women leaders in senior top leadership roles? What can we do?
Yeah. If I can give a first answer, because I think that's a great question, and I believe it's our absolute duty to contribute to that as recruiters, and we have huge influence. So if you present a slate of candidates to a client that we work with, personally, and I think for everyone, there should be a moment of influence on diversity. Especially male, female, if that's to the question, but also age, and so it's only through our work and influence and relationship with the client that we can achieve that. So I think, especially at Korn Ferry, we need to play a key role in achieving that.
David, Subhash, Vincent, what can we do?
As Tanya said, I think now everybody is convinced about the fact that we need parity, but our experience in France is that even though we are, praising equality, etc., and human rights, it was very difficult to implement, and it had to be a political will. So politics had to force companies for parity, and it starts to be working. So we have our individual responsibility, it's true, and I think we are playing this role, but sometimes the pool of candidates is very limited on the women's side, unfortunately. And so it's a wider issue, which is how do you raise education and you position women at the right level in the society. And this is a political game. It's really a political will. So I would say you have to lobby in your own country so that you promote education for women. You promote, you said that at each large company, there should be 50% of the women at the executive committee, et cetera, et cetera. But if it's, we do our best, and actually our clients, MNCs, they always want to recruit women. They always tell us, hey, please, if you can find women, that would be great. That would be great. So we do our best. but the pool is a bit limited because the politicians, this education, etc., the society is still lacking a bit in many countries. I'm not saying in UK, in France, we try, and anyway, Tanya is a good example that sometimes it succeeds, but but we are. I mean, you see, it's not parity today.
Yeah, I mean,
but it's very, very important subject for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I agree with what Vincent said as well as Tanya. But also, I think, you know, we as headhunters, we need to do a bit more to encourage it through the line managers that we deal with, as well as the HR, because I tend to find, especially in Asia with certain organizations, even the international ones, that the policies are coming from above. So the policies are coming from Europe, right? The head office in Europe or the head office in the United States, for example, or in Sweden. But is it being really truly filtered down in Asia? Probably not, right? Because it gets to an HR director, and that person is not necessarily thinking about, okay, is this person a female or male, right? It's usually, okay, maybe this is the best candidate. And like you said, Vincent, the pool for female candidates is smaller. So automatically you end up going for that male candidate. So I think we as headhunters need to make a lot more effort to say into to HR directors, say into MDs in Asia specifically, right? That look, let's look at an alternative from a male guy kind of thing. And if we don't do that, it's still going to be corporate policy, you know, in quotes, which will never really be filtered down. So I think we still have a long way to go as headhunters to encourage this in a lot of organizations.
But I will just add quickly, you know, because you all also know this, you know, I've worked for companies where we had decided that we will dedicate a day for a consultant on trailing spouses, coaching them, guiding them, and most of the time they were women. So we have spent, it is not that, you know, we are brutal, ruthless, you know, just looking for this, you know, we are also in that mode, you know, and when you coach them, you help them, you get them a job, especially the trailing spouses, it is quite interesting. You know? I have one or two more questions, and there are other questions coming, but you are also, I'm looking at time, it's 6:03. One question which has come, you know, how easy or difficult it is for people to take a break for a few years to do entrepreneurship, sabbatical, this, that, you know, and then come back again in the job. You know? What advice, what recommendations you have for those people? You know? Are those kind of candidates viewed on parity, or are they viewed, you know, differently? What panel has opinion on this aspect?
Maybe I'll just share my experience. I mean, I have come across, I mean, a lot of people maybe in the mid of their career where, you know, they wanted to do something different and, you know, maybe go for the entrepreneurial path, you know, set something on their own, and then maybe it didn't go well, or they just maybe, you know, had burnt out effects from their career and they wanted to take a break, right? So, I mean, as long as you spell it out, you know, very clearly, what you had done during that period, maybe even on the LinkedIn, you know, than just saying that you went on a sabbatical, right? If you can explain that, be honest about it, I am more than happy, you know, if the candidate has the right competency and my client will benefit, you know, from having this person on board, I'm more than happy, you know, as a headhunter to present this person.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I think it's amazing. I think of it very highly, and I think it's great if you want to take a break for your career, or you want, you know, it's all kind of, again, coming back to values and what you've done. So personally, I don't see an issue with it. And again, I think, again, it's our role to represent the candidate in the right way and in a diverse way to a client. So you may have, you know, if you come back to a group CFO, you may have people that have an excellent background. They've worked in the US and in Europe. And then you may have someone else that said 2 years ago, I'm going to set up my own, you know, we had one candidate that set up his own health app company because his focus went on his health and he wanted to set something up and he failed. But still, you know, it's, again, a headhunter, it is my role to filter it a bit, right, in a way, and I thought it was good. It's great. And there was another candidate that was female, and maybe not up to par, but still I felt, you know, you need to represent her. And so I really think in that sense, coming back to the previous questions, whether female or LGBTI or young, or, you know, some people have questions, oh, at age 60, can I still do something? Of course you can, right? Or you're 59. What's, you know, I really think we need to also from a recruiter point of view, take out our own biases and represent a fair slate of candidates. Anyway, so that's my opinion on taking maybe a different route or being a different profile than the standard corporate.
Anybody else? Otherwise, I have a very interesting follow-up question on Tanya. But anyway, please.
Maybe
No,
just, I think we evolved, especially for women this time, about this break for raising families. I think it's very well accepted now that you take a very long break for raising your family. It's not really questionable anymore. In the past, it was a bit actually, but now I don't think it is. Now for men, maybe that's a little bit more challenging. A man who says, I took a break of 3 years and don't ask me why, and because I just wanted to rest. I mean, if somebody says that, of course, it looks a little bit strange. Now, if a man says it was to take care of my family, I never met that, by the way, but it's going to arrive sooner or later. I took 2 years to take care of my family. Anyway, there must be a reason behind, and there must be, something a little bit constructive. But what I wanted to say was that there is a difference between taking a break and having an entrepreneur and starting a business. And becoming an entrepreneur for 2-3 years, and then you fail, you come back. I think most of us will become one day or the other an entrepreneur, and that's a big change in the career path from the past. I think when I see on the profiles, executive profiles, it's becoming very common. So I think all of us, we have to get ready to become one day maybe an entrepreneur. It means thinking about working alone or working with a small team, being in a business development mode, etc. So, but that's another type of break. So, yeah, that's what I wanted to add.
Nothing more to add. David, do you have anything to add? Otherwise, I have a follow-up.
Nothing to add.
I have a very interesting question because it will answer many, many other questions which you have asked. You know, these two examples which you took, you know, one for the person male and the other one was a female, was a little bit. What was in their personality, which, despite all the common sense, you know, what common stereotypes about it, you still tried to help them? What attracted you to them, other than the CV, in their personality?
Yeah, I think they were candidates. Okay, if you talk about the female candidates, I am also, in terms of diversity, again, there's a part that is also a step-up candidate, right? So you may not be yet at the level, but with the right business coaching or the right, you know, C-suite team, you can still get there. So I think, again, it's our role to highlight that and bring these people there, because then you create a diverse list of candidates. And with the other person, it's the same. I mean, you see that it's someone that was authentic in a way, right? I mean, that's about the person that went entrepreneurial, took their own route, but in a sense didn't lose their business sense. It was a 2-year stint. So for me, I don't see that as an issue if they've had a stable career in the past and took a conscious decision. And then if we check that it's right, that they leave for those reasons, then it's part of the story. And you talk about achievements, what's there, what are your challenges, you know, it comes down to soft skills as well. And I guess one of the things that we look for now, if you come to those competencies, I'd say, I think a couple of years ago, it was a lot about change and openness to change. That's still there, but and I look at it at my kids as well at the moment. But and I think I told you, Krishan, but you know, this I look a lot at grit now. So how resilient have candidates been, and how resilient are my kids? I mean, I think they're not enough, but in these, you know, tough environments. And if you can show that over your career, you can show it in your own company. You still have the technical skills that are required, but you have the grit to learn and to step up, you know, and even when you're 60, right, almost at retirement age, I think that's an important one that I look at the moment.
Thank you very much, Tanya. I've been in the last 5 minutes. We are in the last 5 minutes. So I have one last question on the email. There's also one email question, a chat question has come, which I think we will not get the time. I think it was a question about, it's a question about specialist recruiter for NGO. I mean, where is that chat? Let me quickly go. One looking for roles in organizations set up for social impact. You know, how do they go about that? You know, so I'm sure. I mean, there are of course specialist recruiters. You know, I will answer that because I have another question from email which is pending, and I think it's an important one. So of course we have specialist recruiters for all kinds of industries, and if you search for them, you'll find them. I'm sure there are companies like, for, you know, I found out that we have recruiters for academic positions and this and that. So you can always find. The last question which I want to ask, you know, what is your take on part-time roles? You have a lot of experience, part-time director, part-time CHRO, part-time this and part-time that. You know, what do you take, you know, on that? And how would one go about finding and applying for such kind of part-time roles? Any experience on that?
I think in my experience on part-time roles, I mean, I would refer to it as contract roles as opposed to part-time roles, right? So I think let's look at it from an Asia perspective. I think in the past, for various social, cultural beliefs or rules, people did not look at contract roles, neither did they look at part-time roles. But nowadays, I think organizations are more open to such things. But it comes down to the kind of role that you're going to be doing at part-time, or the kind of role you're going to be doing contract, right? So they're very few and far between. They're not a lot. But I think if you're looking for part-time, maybe focus on looking at a contract role as opposed to a part-time role. I think that's probably easier to achieve.
Subhash, Vincent, any take on that?
You are on mute, Vincent.
You're on mute, Vincent.
Sorry. So in France, we have more and more these roles. I think we call that executive contract employment type. And it's often a way to solve a short-term solution, a short-term issue. So you recruit somebody for 6 months, 1 year at executive level, and then it can end up into a full-time job. Actually, very, very often it works this way, and so it's a big trend. And our candidates sometimes forget to look at this, and it is a really great source of opportunities for CFOs. CEOs that are temporarily, searching for something and that are struggling to find. Yeah.
I think we are almost towards the end of our session. I want to really thank. So, Vincent, when you are here, I will keep a bottle of Saint-Emilion in. Okay, David, for you, a very nice a couple of bottles of, what we call single malt. Tanya, you are very, very welcome to come, and you will get whatever you want. And Subhash, thank you very much for your time. Please come and let's have good time. I really want to thank the Pan IIM Association for giving us this opportunity to present it. I think this topic was in demand for the last 1.5 years. We couldn't organize it from IIMA ESCO, but now that we had this time and a beautiful, intelligent, competent panel to do this, so we could manage to do it. Thank you very much. Really appreciate. I will send you the link for the recording, and then we can, take it forward from there. Thank you very much, Deepika, Rahul, Suraj, Yogesh, everybody, for helping me organize this. Bye-bye. Have a
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.